Good afternoon, and thank you for joining or watching this later on for the 2020 tax season. Today, we're going to be discussing some of the trends, or some of the things to prepare for as you're preparing for the 2020 tax season. We have a great panel. We have Theresa Lucotti-Bildik, she is the local taxpayer advocate. So I'll let her introduce herself during her presentation. We also are joined by Loretta Geotis from the United Way Collier and the Keys. She's the VITA coordinator. So I'll let her talk about a little bit about VITA. She'll be discussing VITA and the qualifications of what VITA is and what kind of service it provides to the community. And my name is Katherine Guerra. I am the director of the LITC Legal Aid Broward and Collier County. At the end, I am going to be discussing some of the most drastic changes that we have for the 2020 tax season. Again, thank you for joining us. And with no further ado, I'll let Theresa take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, Kathy, for inviting me to this presentation today. My name is Theresa Lucotti-Bildik. I am the local taxpayer advocate in the Fort Lauderdale Taxpayer Advocate Office. And what we are is we are your voice at the IRS. We are an independent organization within the IRS. And my presentation today is going to be filled with pre-filing season tax tips for you so that you can avoid many common pitfalls that we see every year. Next slide, please. All right, so pre-filing season outreach, what we want to do is to make sure you get to the green light. We don't want you to end up at a red light. So if you think that you are ready to file your tax return, I'm going to go over some tax tips to avoid IRS delays so that you can pass go with confidence. You can get to that green light, and that'll mean that you'll get your refund quicker. So next slide, please. My first tip is going to be wait to get your W-2. Don't file your tax return using your paycheck stub. When you do that, sometimes you may pull an incorrect pay stub. Maybe you forget that you got another one. Maybe it's not your last one, or there have been some corrections that your employer makes, and your last pay stub does not equal your W-2. In addition, your W-2 has certain information that may not be contained in the pay stub. And one thing is your employer's employer identification number. Very often it's not on the pay stub, but it is on the W-2, and it is something that is needed. You're going to want to verify your income, your withholding, make sure that everything is correct. If you receive your W-2 and anything is not correct, you should contact your employer immediately and ask them to correct it. What they will do is they will correct your W-2 and issue you a new one. They not only issue it to you, they issue a copy to Social Security and IRS as well. And that's going to be very important. And I'm going to explain to you in just a minute. Next slide, please. IRS integrity and verification operations. What this is, the IRS every year compares your income and your withholding reported on your tax return to all the forms W-2 and other information returns they receive. So when you get a copy of a form, the IRS also has a copy of the same form. So the problem occurs when you have a W-2 or you have some income documents that have not been reported to the IRS. So there is a discrepancy there, and that is going to delay your tax return. So the reason that the IRS freezes the processing is they want to ensure that accurate returns are processed. And this also helps identify fraudulent returns before the refunds are issued. Bottom line, If what the IRS receives does not equal what you put on your tax return, there will be delays. Next slide, please. Another tax tip is we want you to double check that your information is correct for you and your dependents. Make sure your names are spelled correctly. Make sure your social security numbers are correct. And if you must have a valid social security number for all of your dependents before filing your tax return, or that may not only delay the processing of your tax return, but in certain instances, it will disqualify you from some refundable credits, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit. And we will be discussing that in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. Attach all required forms and schedules before you submit your return. So there are two different ways of submitting your return. One is the old-fashioned file a paper tax return, and more common and more popular is to file your return electronically. So if you are filing an electronic return, you're just going to follow the prompts that the software gives you, and and they will tell you what attachments need to be included with your tax return. If you are waiting on your W-2, and as a reminder, your employer has until January 31st to mail it to you. Sometimes it will be available before January 31st. If you work for a larger company, they may have a website, they may have an employee portal, and your W-2 may be available there. So you can always go log in online and retrieve your W-2 from that portal if it's available. If you do not receive it and you cannot get it from your employer, or maybe it's an old employer, then what you can do is you can contact the IRS, but you have to wait until after February 1st, and they may have received a copy of it. And if they have, they will share that information with you so you can use it to prepare your tax return. I do want to mention at this moment that it's important, if you received unemployment compensation, that to wait until you receive the 1099-G, which is certain government payments. And that's the form that you will receive when you had unemployment compensation. So make sure that you receive that. Some states will have an electronic version, so you will have to log on to your state's website to retrieve that. Okay, and if your tax refund was delayed, if you had issues with your 2019 return, with your refund, and the IRS paid you interest, well, guess what? That interest is taxable, and you should include it on your tax return. And the IRS, the Treasury, will issue you a Form 1099 INT, which shows how much interest that you received. Next slide, please. All right, the stimulus. We'll talk stimulus now. This has been a huge source of questions and confusion ever since it was announced last year. So as you know, in 2020, the economic impact payments, which is the official term for the stimulus, was issued. So if no economic impact payment was received, or it was not in the correct amount, if you didn't receive the correct amount in 2020, now you have to claim it on your tax return. But now it changes names. Now it's going to be known as the Recovery Rebate Credit. It is the same thing, it's just called something else now. And you would claim it, the Recovery Rebate Credit, on your Form 1040, or if you file a 1040 SR, which is the new U.S. tax return for seniors. And the recovery rebate credit is going to be claimed on line 30. If you did not receive an economic impact payment during 2020, you should receive a notice 1444. I'm sorry, if you did receive it, you will receive a notice 1444 showing the amount received, and you can use that to record the amount on the worksheet. There will be a worksheet for you to use if you feel like you did not receive the correct amount. You do not need to complete any information about the recovery rebate credit if you receive the full amount. So if you are single and you receive the $1,200, or you are married and you receive the full $2,400 plus $500 for each qualifying child, if you received the maximum, then you don't need to do any reconciling. You don't have to do the worksheet. And finally, if you were eligible for the economic impact payment, but the credit based on your 2020 tax return is actually less than what you received, so basically you received more than you would have, than you should have, no repayment is required. So that's great news. So even if you receive more than you would have, it's okay. That's your money to keep and you don't have to do anything about it. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the premium tax credit. And this is for people who have marketplace insurance. And so the health insurance marketplace is also very commonly called or referred to as Obamacare. That was never the official name of it. It's the health insurance marketplace. However, you may know it as Obamacare. So last year, there were several software companies that did not alert people that they needed to attach Form 8962, which is called the premium tax credit, that it had to be attached, it had to be completed and attached to their tax return if they received advanced premium tax credit. So basically, if you had health care through the marketplace and you received assistance from the marketplace to pay the premium, so you only paid part of the premium, that was advanced premium tax credit that you received. If you did not attach Form 8962, that froze your tax return. And people received a letter from the IRS requesting a copy of Form 8962. Well, what happened last year is the pandemic hit. And so a lot of people received that letter from the IRS and mailed it to the IRS just as the pandemic was hitting. And so anyone that was in this situation experienced extremely, extremely long delays. So even if you use software and it does not alert you to complete Form 8962 and attach it to your tax return, if you have healthcare through the marketplace, please know that this is necessary. Okay, all tax returns will be stopped during processing if the credit is claimed, but the Form 8962 is not attached. And on screen, there are certain websites that you can go to that give you information, a little bit more information. The first one is on premium tax credit, the basics. And the second one is TAS, is just short for Taxpayer Advocate Service. Get Help Healthcare Premium Tax Credit page. So let me see, make sure I covered everything. Yes, and so what will happen is the marketplace will send you Form 1095A, which is the Health Insurance Marketplace Statement. And on that form, you must receive that form. On that form is all the information you will need to prepare Form 8962. All the information is going to be on that form. Sometimes, if they don't have your correct address, you may not receive it, but you may be able to log on to the website and for the marketplace and retrieve it there. Also, if you went to your state-based marketplace rather than the federally facilitated marketplace, you may have to go to the website for your state in order to retrieve Form 1095A. So you will need to do a little digging, but that form is absolutely necessary. I cannot stress the importance of making sure that you get that information and you attach Form 8962 to your tax return. If it is not attached, you will experience delays. Absolutely. Next slide, please. Another common error is people do not attach Form 1098-T, which is tuition statement, from an eligible educational institution to claim education expenses. Now, this is education expenses that you can claim, or think of college type expenses. It's not if you would need to receive this form and attach it to your tax return and make sure that it is an eligible educational institution. And you can always ask, because your educational institution will know if they are eligible or not, and they must provide you Form 1098-T. All right, next slide, please. All right. Next one is be aware of tax software that imports prior year data automatically. So you may use the same tax software year after year. Why not? You're familiar with it. You know how to do your own tax return. And many of them will ask you, do you want us to import your information from last year? And of course, it's a good idea because it saves you a lot of steps. However, before you've electronically file your tax return, you definitely want to make sure that all the information is correct. Have you moved during the year? If so, you're going to need to update your address. Did you lose any dependents? Did you change jobs? You want to make sure that it's not importing figures from last year and employers maybe you no longer work for. So make sure that even though the information is imported, that only the 2020 data is on your final tax return. So double check your figures before you hit the submit. Next slide, please. Okay, earned income tax credit requirements. Now, earned income tax credit is the opportunity for a lot of mistakes, and this will also cause your tax return to be stopped, in the processing. You always want to check the income limits first, and I have a slide in just a minute about what those limits are. And you can also use the EITC Assistant tool. There are several tools online on the Taxpayer Advocate website has an EITC Assistant tool that will help you determine whether you are eligible or not. You must have a Social Security number for all qualifying children before the due date of the return, which includes extensions. Only 4 of the filing statuses will qualify you for earned income tax credit. And those are married filing a joint return, which is abbreviated as MFJ, head of household, HOH, qualifying widow, QW, or single. if you are married, by filing separately, so the married filing separately filing status, if that's the one you use, you cannot get earned income tax credit. You do not qualify. That disqualifies you for the credit. You must be a U.S. citizen or resident alien. You can't file Form 2555 or Form 2555 EZ, which is if you've had, you're excluding income earned abroad, and not many people are in this category. And then you meet rules for those without a qualifying child or have a qualifying child. So basically there is a small credit if you are low income and do not have a qualifying child. And there are rules if you have a qualifying child. Okay, let's see. And I do want to point out that in 2020, due to the pandemic, maybe more people than normal had unemployment compensation. And for purposes of earned income tax credit, unemployment compensation is not considered earned income. So anyone receiving unemployment compensation may report less earned income for the purpose of computing this credit, resulting in a reduction or elimination of the credit. But again, when calculating the earned income tax credit, you cannot use unemployment compensation. And our National Taxpayer Advocate is making a recommendation to Congress this year to allow unemployment compensation to be included as qualifying income during national disasters. But again, that is only a recommendation, and it is up to Congress to enact that. Next slide, please. And as promised, these are the income limits. So on top is the qualifying children claimed. So and then the way you want to read it is if filing, and it's going to give you which filing status. So if you use filing status single, head of household, or widowed, those are lumped together. If you have no qualifying children, the maximum income you can earn is $15,820, and that would still get you some earned income credit. So you would basically have to make below that amount. And then if you had one child, you could make up to $41,756, and so on and so forth. For married filing jointly, the income levels are higher. Also, in addition to the income levels, your investment income must be $3,650 or less for the year, regardless of your filing status. And what are the maximum credit amounts? The maximum amount of credit for tax year 2020 is $6,660 for those who have 3 or more qualifying children. Now, this is the maximum. Not everyone is going to receive the maximum. It's $5,920 with 2 qualifying children. And then going down, the maximum credit is $538 with those who have no qualifying children. And as you can see, this is some of these are significant amounts, so they really mean a lot to low-income families. Next slide, please. Okay, common EITC errors. And these errors sometimes don't stop your return from processing, but they can come back, and the IRS could audit your return, and in later years when you've already received it, they will audit and disallow it, and now you have a large liability that you cannot repay. all at once. So I've seen a lot of taxpayers come to Taxpayer Advocate Service asking for assistance with that. So what are the common errors? Claiming a child who does not meet residency or relationship requirements. So, you know, and again, we're not going to go into all the rules right now. I'm just going to mention what they are, but I'm going to give you resources to get more information. Reporting income or expenses, particularly on Schedule C, and claiming them incorrectly. Filing as single or head of household when you are married, and your name and social security number is incorrect. And you can visit the irs.gov website for information on earned income tax credit. Next slide, please. All right, and here are some of your main resources, which is the EITC Assistant on the irs.gov website. You can also go to Taxpayer Advocates website, and it's called the EITC Get Help page, and the EITC page on the irs.gov website again. Next slide, please. All right, and I think we're going to hold questions until the end. Next slide, please. And now what I want to do is I want to just take a couple of minutes. Let me see how much I have, about 5 minutes left, and explain to you what Taxpayer Advocate Service does. We are an independent organization within the IRS. We are here to protect your rights as a taxpayer and help you with your problems that you cannot resolve on your own. We do ask that you try to resolve them on your own first, but if you are unable to, or you try repeatedly to reach the IRS and just cannot get through, or you have a hardship, that time is of the essence and you cannot wait for normal processing, then you can reach us either at that website or that phone number on your screen. Next slide, please. We work in two main ways. One is we help taxpayers with individual IRS problems. That's what I do in my office. We actually open up cases for individuals such as yourself that are having problems, and when you cannot get them resolved, or you are experiencing a hardship and you really are in a time crunch, we open up a case and we work with the IRS and we work on your behalf. So we do all the legwork for you. We make all the phone calls and we keep you updated. Another way that we work is by recommending big picture or systemic issues at the IRS or in the tax laws. So that is more, we're not working with you individually. We see a problem that affects multiple taxpayers and we work directly with the IRS to fix those errors. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is different options for self-help. The Taxpayer Advocate website has a lot of self-help tools available to you, a lot of information. So I encourage you to go to the Taxpayer Advocate website and look around and get information. We have information about coronavirus updates, you know, expecting a refund, for example, all sorts of, the screen does not have all the resources available to you. You can also read about different reports that Taxpayer Advocate puts out. Next slide, please. Taxpayer Advocate also created this beautiful roadmap that is now available online. And the roadmap has wonderful information on different aspects. So for example, it's going to have a section on tax return preparation, tax return processing, notices, exams. So basically, if you're being audited, appeals, if you file an appeal, you disagree with something that the IRS determined, collection, if you owe the IRS and you're having, you know, they're trying to collect from you, and litigation. So if you go to tax court. So the beautiful thing about this is it will show you, help you understand where you are in the process in this whole, and what the next step would be, or what steps are involved for you to get to resolution, or what avenues, what resources you have available to you. So and that is available on that website. Next slide, please. You may be eligible for Taxpayer Advocate Service assistance if you cannot resolve your tax problem through normal IRS channels. Again, you may have tried repeatedly to contact the IRS. You may have, received different answers. You may have sent them information multiple times and have heard nothing. We also help taxpayers whose IRS problems are causing financial difficulty or significant cost. So for example, if you are facing monetary issues and you cannot pay your rent and your landlord is threatening to evict you and you are having trouble getting your refund, that you would qualify for Taxpayer Advocate Assistance. And the wonderful thing is our help is completely free and it's for everyone. It is for individuals. If you have a small business and you're having problems with your business taxes, we help you with that. We help everyone. Next slide, please. How do we help you? You will be assigned one case advocate who will be with you every step of the way. Your advocate will listen to you, will help you understand what needs to be done. They will tell you what, if they need any information from you, any forms, any documents, and they will stay with you until the end of the IRS administrative process, and they'll keep you updated along the way. Next slide, please. The latest success stories. We have lots and lots of success stories. I could go on. I could probably spend half an hour here, but some of these success stories we've had is we help people avoid eviction by working with the IRS to get their tax return, their tax refund released to them. Sometimes we will help expedite the refund to you if you are facing things like an eviction. We help people who maybe the IRS has levied their paycheck and now they can't meet their necessary living expenses because the IRS is taking part of their paycheck. So we take a look and we examine, we work with the individual and to figure out if there is anything that they can pay on a monthly basis. We either help them set up a payment agreement or place their account in uncollectible status. We have helped people who the IRS has notified the Department of State that they have a seriously delinquent debt, and we have been successful in getting them their passport, able to get their passport again, whereas before they were not eligible for a passport. This is just a small fraction of success stories that we have had repeatedly in the last couple of years. Next slide, please. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights. I'm going to read you your rights. And the reason for this is people did not know that they had rights when dealing with the IRS. So you have the right to be informed. You have the right to quality service. You have the right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax. Let me repeat that. You have the right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax, not 1 cent more than what you owe. The right to challenge the IRS's position and to be heard. You have the right to appeal an IRS decision in an independent forum. You have the right to finality. That means once it's over, it's over. The right to privacy. You have the right to confidentiality. You have the right to retain representation. And you have the right to a fair and just tax system. And in Taxpayer Advocate Service, we take this Taxpayer Bill of Rights very, very seriously. Next slide, please. What else do? We also address, like I mentioned earlier, large-scale systemic issues that affect many taxpayers, and we raise these concerns to senior leaders at the IRS. If you know of a tax problem that affects more than one taxpayer, we have what is called, we call it affectionately SAMS, which stands for Systemic Advocacy Management System. And that is it's just a very simple way for you to let Taxpayer Advocate Service know about a tax problem that is affecting more than just you. Maybe you know of many people that it is affecting. Let us know about it. Next slide, please. Taxpayer Advocate issues 2 reports to Congress. These reports are issued directly to Congress. No one at IRS reviews them before they are issued. The annual report to Congress always comes out in January, and it discusses 10 of the most serious problems facing the IRS from the viewpoint of Taxpayer Advocate Service. And then in July, we issued the Objectives Report to Congress, which lets Congress know what Taxpayer Advocate Service will be researching and working on in the coming year. Next slide, please. Other TAS programs are the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic, and our host today, of course, is Legal Aid Service of Collier County, and they run a low income taxpayer clinic. So I won't get into it, but this is a taxpayer advocate program, and Taxpayer Advocate Service funds in part the LITCs, and they do a wonderful, wonderful service. So I will let Katherine give you some more information on that. Next slide, please. We also have a taxpayer advocacy panel, independent panel of citizen volunteers who suggest ways to improve the IRS. Next slide, please. And Taxpayer Advocate Service has a website. Our National Taxpayer Advocate has a blog that puts out regular information. Taxpayer Advocate Service is on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Next slide, please. And remember that we are your voice at the IRS. And for information, please visit our website, taxpayeradvocate.irs.gov. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Loretta.
Thank you. That was a tremendous amount of wonderful information. Thank you so much. Okay, so next slide, please. I am the program manager for Collier County and the Florida Keys for the VITA program. It's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And what we do is offer free tax preparation, and we focus mainly on low to moderate income families. So this year, our tax preparation assistance is offered to people making $66,000 or less. You may, in different areas, that number may be different. So that is what we are doing for Collier and Monroe County. The IRS certified volunteers inform the taxpayers about tax credits that Theresa mentioned, such as the Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credits, other credits that if you do your own taxes or go onto an online service or something that you may not be familiar with and you might miss. So our volunteers are certified, and we have the information on all of those credits. So we make sure that if you qualify for one, that you get it. As she said, we want you to get every penny that you have coming and to not miss something that you are eligible for. So as I said, where VITA is specifically designed to support the underserved and vulnerable populations, and we focus on low to moderate income individuals, people with disabilities, the elderly, and limited English speakers. So we cover a wide variety. Our clients come from all aspects of life and from, you know, income ranges and so on. So we're here to help as many people as we possibly can. Next slide, please. This is just last season's impact in Collier County. It just kind of gives you an idea of what we do as our free service. VITA is totally free to all of our taxpayers. The total refund amount last year was $752,000, which was up over $206,000 from the season before. I won't go through all of those, but the average adjusted gross income was about $25,000. We're able to retrieve $280,000 in earned income tax credits, $86,000 in child tax credits, and $7,000 in education tax credits. And like I said, those are credits that could be possibly overlooked, or you don't know how to apply for them and make sure that you get them. So these are just numbers. Our Monroe County numbers are very similar to this. We started in Monroe County about 4 years ago, and we have increased our numbers every year by sizable percentages. So we're growing, and we are able to increase the number of people that we can help. Oh my gosh, there goes my phone. Sorry about that. Okay, next slide, please. The importance of VITA. VITA gives taxpayers back a significant portion of their annual income. And one of the ways we do that is, as I mentioned, with the earned income tax credits and those other credits. What it does, and we realized how much it saved our community members, is the average, and I checked the average last year, and this slide says it was about $298. I think I found some even higher than that. If you go to a paid tax preparer, that it can be up as much as $350. And that is for a very simple return. So if we can help you get your return prepared for free, that $300 goes back into your pocket instead of someone else's pocket. And with most of the clients that we have, that can mean the difference between paying the rent that month or whatever might be needed for. So we are free, we are happy to help, and we'll save you from paying those fees to have your returns prepared. It provides access to our greatest anti-poverty tool. We paid services often charge clients to access credits that they automatically qualify, as I was talking about. So it doesn't cost you any more to search in and find out if you qualify for those other credits than just doing your normal return. So we're here to review all aspects of your return and make sure that you get what you have coming back to you. Next slide, please. We can connect people to additional services as well, like legal aid, like taxpayer advocates. People come in, and once we start talking to them and in our initial interview with people, we may find out that they have a lot of other needs, like they may need help paying the rent, they may need food for that month. With the pandemic, the food lines have been, off the charts, so we might be able to direct them to a food bank. They might have a child who has a disability. We are connected with county-wide resources, nonprofits that offer many, many services for lots of different things. So you may come in to get your taxes done and walk out with a handful of resources that might be able to help you in other aspects of your life. What makes VITA unique is the holistic approach it takes to help fight poverty and empower the community members to take control of their own finances. What we want to do is help you. I remember a couple years ago, we had a young man who came in. It was the first time he had ever filed a tax return. And he was awestruck because he had no idea how to do it. how it was going to affect him, what he should prepare for, and so on. So it empowers people to learn and to know throughout the year things that they could be doing to prepare to have their taxes done, or maybe ways they could cut their taxes, or increase their credits and so on. So it goes further than just getting your return prepared. The IRS has based the economic impact payments, that is the stimulus checks, to every eligible American, and based on their tax filing and their Social Security benefits. A lot of people are not required to file a tax return due to income limits, and so they don't do that. And I've heard people say, I'm not going to file because I'm not required to, and I just don't want to do it. Well, then when the stimulus payment came, they were not in the system, so to speak. So their payments came much later. They were much slower in getting those payments. So it's good to file a return, even if you're not required to, just because when things like this happen, we had no idea this was going to happen with the COVID and the stimulus payments and so on. That if the IRS has your bank information, those checks went straight into people's bank accounts within a matter of days, whereas people who had not filed a return in the last 2 or 3 years were scrambling, trying to wait to get checks mailed to them. They were last on the list to get those stimulus payments because the IRS did not have a way to get them to them quicker. Next slide, please. United Way of Collier and the Keys program, VITA program, is assisting everyone remotely this year. We started our in-person sites last year at the end of January, the beginning of the tax season. And about the first week in March, we all know what happened, and COVID struck. And so we had to stop meeting in person. Well, this year, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be a whole lot better. So we still are not meeting people face to face. We like to do it that way. We like to sit across a table from you. That way we can see who you are. We get to know you. We can go over all your documents in person with you and so on. This year we cannot do that. So everything is being done virtually. So we have partnered with branches to provide a secure and safe platform for preparing your taxes. We scrambled last year trying to get people's documents to us. Even the Office Depot and UPS stores were closed, so they couldn't go and have them scanned and things like that. So this year we are working, and Branches has a wonderful platform put together that will help us get your documents to us in a safe and secure manner. I don't want people to panic over that because a lot of people aren't that tech savvy. We will walk you through it. We'll help you through it. In case of an absolute impossibility for somebody to do that, we'll work out another way to do that. Have your documents dropped off. We'll meet somebody in a parking lot somewhere, whatever we have to do to get your documents and be able to help you with that. Next slide, please. How does it work? So the first thing, if you're familiar and you have been to one of our VITA sites in the past, you will recognize this intake form. It has lots of questions. It looks very intimidating when people come in, but they're pretty easy. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to go through and answer all of this. This gives us your basic picture of your family and your tax situation. That will be the first step when you log on to the link to connect with our tax preparers. It will be the questions that are on this form. So it's nothing new, it's just the same questions in a different format. So once you complete that, and if you have a question, you come across a question and you're like, I'm not sure of the answer, I don't know how to answer this, leave it. And actually there's a box that says unsure. You can mark that, and then when we get with you one-on-one by phone, we'll be able to define whether that answer should be yes or no. So once that comes into the system, then our tax preparers will retrieve those documents. We will give you a call. Hopefully we'll be able to do that within a very short time. Depends on how many come in all at one time, how many volunteers we have. A lot of depends on a lot of situations, but our goal is to get back with you in a very short time frame and let you know we got your documents, and we'll set up an appointment to talk with you and go over this intake form as if you were sitting across the table from us, because that's what we do when you come into a brick and mortar site. We sit across the table and we go through this whole thing with you. So once we have all that information together, and I would say before you get on to log on to that site, do as Theresa mentioned in her presentation, get all your documents together. Make sure you have everything first. Make sure you have your W-2 and not just your check stub. Make sure you have, your insurance papers, any interest from the bank, anything and everything that you would have to walk into a place to get your taxes repaired. Have that ready before you log on to fill out this form. So once that is done, you'll be assigned to an IRS certified tax preparer. We will call you and go over the whole routine about how this is going to work, what are the next steps, so on and so forth. There may be some back and forth. It'll be through this platform, through this portal. So if you need to send us something back, it'll come back through that. So everything is safe and secure. Next slide, please. Once you have a tax preparer assigned to you, we will prepare the return. They may call you if they have questions or anything. And then what they do, the next step of the process is to assign it to a quality reviewer. So 2 people look at your tax return to make sure that we have everything correct, and maybe you made a typo or something, and the quality reviewer will find that. So we want to make sure everything is 100% correct. So we have 2 people look at your tax return. Then the quality reviewer will call you and go over your final documents. They'll be sent back to you so you can look at them and send you a document that you can sign electronically. We have not determined, the IRS has not determined yet the actual starting date. I just had a meeting this morning and they do not have that date yet. It is most likely the last week of January, first week of February, probably at the latest. So what you would do to find out how to get this link, we don't have the links yet because we're not ready to start. Go to either one of these numbers or websites, United Way of Collier County or keysunitedway.org, and you can log on. I think that's on the next slide, or to these numbers, and call, and you'll be able to be updated when those links are active. Next slide, please. Okay, just another aspect of this, and I would love to have some additional volunteers. If you would like to be a volunteer tax preparer, we would love to have you. We have some trainings going on right now. They're all listed here. We have a training next Tuesday for brand new volunteers. We have a training for experienced volunteers Friday, and there's a second date there on Saturday the 23rd. And then we also have 2 dates there for the training for this virtual platform because it's new. And so we all have to learn how to use the new platform to get our documents back and forth securely. So COVID turned everything on its head. Whole program kind of has been reinvented. Hopefully it will be even better than ever. And actually an advantage to a lot of people who, especially where I live in the Keys, it may be 50 miles to one of our sites. If you live in Key Largo and there's a site in Islamorada or Marathon, it's a long ways to drive. So this actually is expanding our horizons to be able to work with people virtually because you don't have to leave your home and go somewhere. So that is my phone number and my email there. You can email or call me, either one. If you would like to be a volunteer, there is a training and certification that you will need to do to be certified. And we would love to have you do that. If you know somebody that might like to do that, refer them to this video. Next slide, please. Okay, and that's just our fun way of saying, are taxes making you go bananas? Well, yes, they usually do. And a lot of people are like, taxes freak them out. They'll say, oh, please help me. I don't know how to do my taxes. I don't know what to do. They're very grateful. Our clients are the most wonderful people. They're grateful. They're appreciative if we can help them at all. If you would like to try it yourself, there is another place that you can go called myfreetaxes.com that you can go in and do it yourself, and that's great. If you can do that, it uses basically the same program that we use to do your taxes. It has a guide, so it's will ask you the pertinent questions and so on, and so you can do it that way too if you like. But don't let your taxes scare you. Don't let it make you go bananas. Call us for help. We are here. Our goal is to help as many people as we can. And if you'd like to be a volunteer, we would love to have you. If you're a client, we're looking forward to working with you in the next few weeks. Thank you. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Now it's my turn. I'm just going to go briefly about regarding some of the 2020 tax season changes, some things that are going to be permanent changes, and some of them due to COVID-19, they're just temporary changes to the way that we're going to be reporting our taxes, or there's some reliefs. That I want to touch on and the new forms. The first thing that is a 1099 NEC for those non-employee compensation recipients. So if you're an independent contractor, self-employed, and you usually get a 1099 miscellaneous, this and to report how much money you made on that year. Now the form actually that you're going to be receiving is the 1099 NEC. So don't be surprised if you see a different form. It's just the IRS, the 1099 miscellaneous. Like I said, it is a miscellaneous. So now that many more people are entering the gig economy and more people are receiving the 1099, they're self-employed, they decided to create a new form dedicated to the non-employee compensation. Another one is the 7202, the sick leave for self-employed taxpayers. This is something that is not permanent. It's all going to be because of COVID-19 reasons. And I'm going to go over a little bit more on that in detail a little later on. Also, we have for the first time a 1040 SP in Spanish. So if you are someone, and if you're listening to this and you know English is not your first language, there is a tax form, 1040, meaning the tax return itself, the form in Spanish. So this is very helpful, even sometimes to compare what the tax preparer did. If you're not understanding or you have someone who doesn't understand, and what I've done in the past, my education has all been in English. I do speak Spanish, but there's language that is very technical and I'm not exactly sure how to say it. So I'll bring the 1040 SP and say, look, this is kind of what it means in Spanish, and may be helpful for those taxpayers. There's also changes in IRA. One of the big changes is the, for many years, there was a 7.5-year limit for contributions to your IRA. This has been eliminated. So if you're working at 70.5 or you're 71 years old and you want to continue to contribute to your IRA, now the IRS is allowing this for this contribution. Like I said before, you had an age limit. And this is something that is going to be staying here permanently. Another permanent change to IRA is a penalty-free distribution of $5,000 for due to childbirth or adoption. So you have to pay taxes on the $5,000 because it's still taxable income unless it's a Roth, and that's a little bit different. But you don't have to pay that 10% penalty for an early distribution. And this has to be claimed within a year of the child's birth or adoption, okay? And this one is a COVID-19 related. The third one is a penalty-free COVID-19 related distribution of $100,000. It has to be COVID-19 related though, okay? You can't just ask for $100,000 out of your IRA if you're not of age yet. And if you don't have a COVID-19, meaning that you were diagnosed yourself, one of your family members, you lost your job. So there's got to be some type of reason, COVID-19 related, for you to ask for the distribution. And like I said, it is a penalty free. And it also gives you a 3-year payback. In other words, you can pay back this money to your IRA and not have to pay taxes on the money. I know for VITA purposes, and to qualify for VITA, if you took out the distribution and you repay the money into your IRA within 2020, you qualify for VITA services. I think if you are postponing the repayment for next year or for this year, 2021, I don't think those taxpayers are eligible for VITA because it takes a little bit more what the system allows. Okay. Other changes, and this is a COVID-19 related, is a charitable contribution above the line of cash contributions up to $300. So now you can actually adjust your income by $300 if you can show that you did or provided a charitable contribution in cash. It cannot be, sometimes services or items. It has to be cash of up to $300. Self-employed, I don't want to spend a lot of time because this is a very fact related. So each taxpayer's facts are going to see whether you are going to qualify for the sick leave or family leave. This is something that is only for due to COVID-19. So for 2020 tax purposes, it may be if something happens for 2021, it may be extended to 2021, but for now, let's talk about 2020 tax season. So if you were self-employed and you had to leave your job because like I said, you were diagnosed or one of your families was diagnosed with COVID-19, you were mandated to quarantine yourself or your family member, then you may be able to go ahead and claim that sick leave or family leave, first time for self-employed, which is very unique. Also, for just COVID-19 related 2020 tax season, temporary relief is a Social Security deferral of 50% of those taxes. I'm not sure whether VITA is something that they're going to be doing or not, but if you're self-employed, for the first time, you have an opportunity to defer some of your Social Security tax responsibility by 50%, meaning that you will pay the other 50% in the next 2 tax years. Like I said, I'm not giving a lot of information. I will provide my contact information. If you have any questions, you're self-employed, you're watching this, because it's going to be very related to what kind of work you did, when did you stop working, and all that. And for ITINs, and ITINs are for those individuals who report their taxes using not a Social Security number, but an ITIN number. This year, the ITINs with the middle numbers 88 in the middle, they are going to be expiring, which means that you have to file you have to paper file your tax return first of all, and second, also attach a W-7 with identification. A passport is usually the main document that is sent with the W-7. You send that to the IRS. Once the IRS receives and certifies that the passport is valid, they'll send you back the document. I've done hundreds of these ITIN requests, whether it's to renew it or for brand new ITINs. And the IRS has never lost a passport. My clients have always received them back. If I know there's other hesitation of sending a document, especially if it's the only form identification that you have, you can always make an appointment at the TAC office or the IRS office closest to you, and you can go ahead and bring your passport with you that day with your W-7, your tax return. And once that is in person, they'll verify that the passport is a valid passport, give it back to you the same day. They'll keep the W-7 and the tax return for processing, but you can go home with your passport that day. So 88 is so again, the ITIN looks just like a Social Security number, always starts with 9. So the 2 middle digits, if they're 88, in previous years, the ones that were the middle digits were 90, 91, 92, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, those expired. So if you did not file your tax return and you have one of these ITINs that expire, you can go ahead and renew it this tax year. Also, an ITIN does expire if you don't file a tax return within three consecutive years with an ITIN, regardless of what the middle numbers are. And the last thing I want to discuss with this big change is the economic impact payment or the rebate recovery credit. I think Loretta and Theresa spoke about this. This is the big 2020 tax kind of change, and that a lot of questions have come in from this. I do want to say, and I know usually we talk about the economic impact payment, meaning the $1,200, so that first round of stimulus check, but also the rebate recovery credit can be claimed for the $600. So a lot of individuals who receive the $1,200 because they filed their 2018 tax return, but maybe they didn't file 2019 tax return, and the second stimulus check was actually sent only using your 2019 information. So if you didn't receive those $600, and you can go ahead and claim it in the 2020. Another way that you can claim this credit, for example, have a lot of clients who file file jointly with their spouse and they have children, but the IRS only send them $1,200. They didn't take into account the other spouse and the dependents. So if whatever difference that you have, you can go ahead and claim that with this credit. I think that this is going to be the number one source of tax issues this year, to be honest with you, because if you went to a paid tax preparer and that person used their bank information on the 2018 or 2019 tax return, and the IRS, when you do make a claim for the rebate recovery credit, and they say, hey, we already sent you a payment, and you say, no, I never received it. Now we need to go back and do identity theft, do a trace on that payment. So like I said, I think this economic impact payment or the rebate recovery credit, once it's called on the tax return, is gonna be the main source of issues this tax season. So I do wanna encourage every single person to really try to file as early as you can. Because if there is some issues that need to be resolved, you have plenty of time. Also, you get your refund a little earlier. I think for what I read, e-filing starts January 27th. I'm not sure whether the IRS has stamped that as the date. I think, like Loretta was saying, there's still a lot of questions because a lot of VITA sites, because a lot of tax preparers, a lot of tax professionals, and the IRS have a lot of questions because the 2020 tax season is going to be a unique tax season. At least 2019 tax season, we kind of started in person and then kind of merged into being a virtual, but this one, for what we foresee, is going to be entirely virtually, and we want to make sure that we are providing the best service and that we are providing the best information. This time, I think that's all we have. I want to thank really Theresa. Thank you for all the information that you shared. Thank you for joining this conversation regarding the 20 tax season. You always have very valuable information to share. Loretta, you too. Thank you so much. I know that you run the two programs in Collier County and the Keys, and your time is very limited. And I do thank you for all the information. So last thing, 211, you want to make an appointment to file your taxes for free. I just got certified. I'm a VITA, tax preparer VITA certified. I just got everything done. And I am telling you, I work with clients every single day, and it's so sad to see how they trusted a tax quote unquote professional, and now they're dealing with refund issues, thefts and stuff like that. VITA is a free tax preparation program. Every single person who's preparing a tax return is certified by the IRS. We have a peer quality review. So when you file that tax return, you know that the information there is correct, that the bank information is not going to be changed before it's filed, that you're going to get your refund as stated on that tax return. So once again, thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Theresa. And thank you for joining us today.